Welcome back to today's action-packed aviation and news recap. Today there is coverage on a new aircraft order, Qantas taking delivery of a new aircraft as they finally enter their next era, and updates surrounding certification to a unapproved 737 MAX variant. Beginning proceedings with, I'd argue, the headline feature, although probably in today's topic there are multiple I could choose from, but I'll stick with the new aircraft order, that being Lufthansa, who have continued their shopping spree, with the group announcing a deal for the A220. The latest deal reaffirms Lufthansa's long-standing relationship with Airbus, which commenced with the introduction, believe it or not, in the 1970s of the A300, now some 50 years ago. Since the A300's delivery, the group has operated every product family, from the A220 upwards to the world's largest passenger plane, the A380. Lufthansa Group announced a firm order for 40 A220-300s, which is the most significant, or should I say largest variant in the series to date. The A220s will be deployed towards the newly founded City Airlines, which has bases in Frankfurt and Munich of Germany. City Airlines' mission will be to connect cities with the Lufthansa's significant ports for onward travel across the broader Lufthansa network, maybe even extending towards the group. The Airbus A220 has been viewed as the best possible option for the new division looking ahead. The group highlights explicitly the ideal use to really capture feeder traffic, which is the primary mission. The first delivery of the A220-300 to City Airlines is scheduled for 2026. Following this, deliveries will progressively take place over a multi-year period. Lufthansa Group had been studying the Airbus A220 and Embraer E2 jets as part of a mission to form this future fleet. However, the group would ultimately head the way of the A220 and thus leave Embraer out of the picture. Some analysts say that this is a loss for Embraer, who are continuing to push for more sales of its next-generation E2 jets. Although Lufthansa Group, if we analyse, has operated the A220 actually for a considerable period, with Swiss. As a result, it could be perceived that the Embraer E2s, while definitely an attractive option for some customers, may have been, in this case, the least favourable option. Since Airbus acquired the C-Series and rebranded it to the A220, it has been able to leverage the capabilities of the aircraft to enhance multiple customer fleets. City Airlines is now set to join the long list of operators in utilising the series to their advantage. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments just on this topic. Do you believe the E-Jets would have made a more compelling option, or does it make sense to stick with the A220 given it does already fly with Swiss? Over to the next topic of today's proceedings, that is certification of Boeing's 737-7 has been dealt another blow if you want to look at it that way, as reports indicate there's still no specific timeline around the approval. These reports come from reputable Reuters, who said a top official from the Federal Aviation Administration informed them of the development. Throughout the 2023 calendar year, Boeing had made it clear that they were targeting a 2023 approval for the 737-7. At the very latest, they wanted to achieve this by the end of this year. However, with now less than 10 days left, these plans have ultimately been unable to take place. Since the 737-7 began testing, there have been multiple back and forths between the plane maker and the FAA to get the plane approved. In most cases, analysts would argue this has occurred more than ever. This back and forth can be attributed directly to the 737 MAX crisis that impacted the series from 2019 onwards. The crisis, which was spurred on by a lack of adequate certification, resulted in hundreds losing their lives alongside a complete review of how new aircraft were set to be approved. Therefore, and especially for the 737 MAX, the parameters around approval for the remaining two variants have undoubtedly become stricter. The FAA says that planes must be deemed safe before flying with customers, which is always the case, but you could argue with what happened in the past, maybe this didn't happen. And the certification process is something the FAA says needs continuous improvement. There must be a focus also on addressing any potential new technologies that are implemented and ensuring that they're up to standard. The FAA, per its head, says they'll only be able to approve the Boeing 737 777 once all the data is collected and they can deem that the aircraft is safe. As a result of this, Boeing will not be able to hit its target of a 2023 certification. Despite this, the plane maker has said it is consistently communicating with the FAA to meet all requirements for the new variant. Boeing is, if you are unaware, looking towards a crucial exemption of specific outlined regulations around the 737-7 with the engine inlet structure alongside engine anti-ice systems. While no timeline has been provided on when the 737-7 will obtain certification, Southwest, per their latest guidance, are hopeful of an early 2024 approval. That is why, even though we didn't have firm confirmation the certification would not occur this year, it was probably to be expected given Southwest's recent guidance. They're hoping to fly it by the end of the 2024 calendar year on passenger operations, but again, this is their tentative forecast and could be subject to change. While in this segment the focus has been on the smallest member of the 737 MAX series, the certification problems do extend past just this variant and towards their largest 737-10, which is also yet to be approved. As a result, Boeing has these significant variants with several hundred commitments in place, uncertified. On top of that, there is substantial interest too. It results in pressures beginning to mount and patience wearing thin. Boeing did recently obtain the required approvals from the FAA to begin the certification test flights for the Dash 10, but the company is still far from getting this largest aircraft approved. Several customers, including Ryanair, have expressed frustration over how the persistent delays are negatively impacting their own business. But safety is paramount. The FAA and Boeing are not going to rush an aircraft into service just to please their customers, but no doubt these delays are frustrating for each respective airline being impacted. On to the final story of today, and from my home country, with the Qantas Group taking delivery of its first A220 as part of a new era for its single-aisle operations across Australia. Delivery was celebrated just outside of Montreal at Airbus's key facility, with a delivery flight taking place to Sydney over multiple days. Once in Australia, the A220 and crew slated to call the aircraft home will undergo a familiarisation period before scheduled operations can begin. Qantas will configure its Airbus A220s into a two-class layout to optimise leisure and business traffic that'll board the aircraft. A total of 10 business class seats will be featured at the front of the plane, with 127 in economy just located behind. New seats and enhancements represent a substantial upgrade on the previous generation aircraft, that is your 717. Qantas's first A220 also sports a unique livery, seeing it slot into the iconic Flying Arts series. The scheme features strong tones of green in a shift from Qantas's typical red flying kangaroo. Airbus says around 100 painters were involved in the effort to complete the livery. Additionally, painters worked with more than 130 stencils to replicate the detailed design. The livery features over 20,000 dots, and Airbus calls it their most complex livery that they have worked on. Qantas Group will deploy the A220 across its regional division with Qantas Link. Additionally, as part of these plans, Qantas Link will say goodbye to the iconic 717. The 717 has operated for a multi-decade period and has been essential to the operations right across Australia. However, removing this type will allow for the introduction of a much more improved and new aircraft. With a 25% reduction in fuel consumption, alongside emissions and enhanced range capabilities, the acquisition of the A220 means Qantas can deploy this aircraft across many new markets, which is exciting for the average traveller. That is going to conclude today's aviation news recap, a bit of a longer one, but that was because there was a lot to cover. Thank you so much for your support here on the channel, it really does mean a lot. If you have any thoughts on the topics covered, you can let me know down below in the comments. Please do take care, do also be safe, stay tuned, same place, same time tomorrow, where I'll be taking a look at the latest industry developments once more.
And we'll fly.